Welcome back to the Chinese Medicine Podcast. My name is Marie Hopkinson. I'm a Chinese herbalist and an acupuncturist. And today's episode, we're going to be talking about positive psychology and mental health. And you might be thinking, wow, Marie, that's not Chinese medicine. No, it's not. It's strictly Chinese medicine. And from time to time, I do deviate on some topics on this channel. And I thought this is really important to kind of share. And I want to make this video to share with my patients as well. So if you're one of my patients watching this, welcome. Hi. If I haven't seen you for a while, it's good to see you again. And look, I wanted to make this video to explain what are these character strengths, how could they be used, and we are going to talk a little bit about how they relate to things in Chinese medicine as well. Now, when we think about emotions and our like treating emotions or emotional health problems or what could cause that or how we'll be treated, in Chinese medicine we always think there's a link between the physical body and our emotional health or our emotions. So what that means is our physical body can cause emotional stuff, and emotions can have a direct effect on our physical body as well. And it's probably could go as far to say was even if you're not experiencing physical problems as such, like you might not have a disease, there's a clear link between emotions that cause, like emotions cause things to go out of balance in our physical body. And sometimes when things are out of balance, we might just feel some slight changes or may not even notice those changes very much. But if someone was to ask you and you thought about it, you may then think, oh yeah, I do have this symptom or I do have this thing. And it might not be a disease yet, it might not be a problem. But the purpose of this channel is to help people understand how you can use Chinese medicine for your own self. And this is one of the things you can use it for yourself. You can be in control of your emotions and you can be in control of your emotional well-being and your emotional health. And you can also be aware of when it can become out of control and you might need help from a professional practitioner, from either a psychologist, a psychiatrist. You could see an acupuncturist or a herbalist to kind of help with getting that physical balance so that that can then help with your mental health as well. I often see patients that are doing psychology alongside acupuncture or Chinese herbs. And there's things where, like I like to think of it like acupuncture or herbs kind of fills in different gaps to what things can do when you're doing cognitive-based therapies, like you're seeing a psychologist, they might give you tools and tips or things to do, just like this strengths exercise. So the first thing that you need to do if you're watching this is go to the link below and do this character strengths test, right? It's a personality test, or not so much a personality, but your traits, like who you are as a person. What makes you be who you are? Now, why would you want to know this? Well, I would think, why wouldn't you want to know this? Is because you want to know, the more you know about yourself, the more you can individualize things. And that's part of Chinese medicine. It's highly individualized to you, not sort of saying, well, here's 100 people with the same condition. In Chinese medicine, those people will never be exactly the same. We would treat them kind of very specifically and possibly very differently with the treatments that we would give to people. So how do you know who you are as a person? Well, one of the things is what makes you, what are the things that you enjoy doing, right? So your strengths are things that you could do without getting the need to get paid for, let's say, or the things that you just enjoy so much you think, oh, I don't really care about the money, I just do it because I love doing it. Or you might find that there's something in it that just you can't articulate, you can't put your finger on or tell with words exactly what that does for you, but you think, I just like doing it, or I just feel like a better person when I do it. So when you do this personality test, it's good to do it when you're not really hungry, okay? So that can influence things, that can make you more stressed and you don't get as good at answers. So make sure you pick it at a time where you're not highly stressed, or you're not sort of thinking, oh, I've only got 10 minutes, and Marie said it will take 10 minutes, and you're running out the door. So pick a time where you don't have too many of those constraints on you, and sit down and do that test. It takes about 10 or 15 minutes. You answer the questions, and then you'll get an email. It's completely free. It's by this company called VIA Strengths. And look, from time to time, they try to sell you other things if you subscribe to their emails, or you can just unsubscribe once you're done with that if you want. But you will get an email telling you what are your top 5 strengths. So this is based on the research by a guy named Martin Seligman, who's a psychologist, and he wrote a book with somebody else called Strengths and Virtues. Now, this book is basically outlining these different character strengths and saying if people know what their strengths are, they will live a happier life if they do things in their day-to-day work or the course of their day that are involving their strengths. They're more likely to be happy than people who aren't doing stuff in their strengths, let's say. Now, you might have been in a situation where you're in a job now, or you've had a job in the past where you just really hated that job, but you were doing it for the money. And it made it okay because that money you were using to fund your hobby or something you really wanted to do. And that can be good for a season or okay to do for a season, but there comes a time where you think, I don't want to be spending the majority of my time, let's say like a good 38, 40 hours. You know, some people in executive jobs can work 60, 80 hours a week doing something that you really don't like, or the majority of stuff you don't like. And you might even be in a situation where you're in a business and you find yourself doing these things that you just have to be done. And you think, that it just becomes arduous. You don't like doing them. Well, if you're in a situation in a business and you can outsource things, those are the things that are not your strengths, are the things you're going to dislike doing. They probably take up more time than someone who enjoys doing something, and you're probably not doing as great a job as it. So hopefully that's not the majority of your business, but if that's something you can outsource, then that would be a way to be happier as well. So we're going to go through some of these strengths, and I'm going to talk about how you would use them once you know what your main strengths are. So the first way to utilize this knowledge would be after you've done this test and you've got the top 5 strengths. If you're going through a tough time, you're going through a rough patch, you feel really flat, you just feel so depressed, you feel like you don't know what you even enjoy doing. Well, one of the ways Martin Seligman encourages people to use to feel happiness, to just simply feel a sense of happiness, is to pick one of those top 5 strengths that you have and use that in a new way, a way that you've never done before. For some types of people that might be completely scary, and for others that are used to taking risks or doing something new, that might be just, okay, I can do that. So it doesn't have to be something that involves other people. If you're an introverted type of person, it could just be something that involves yourself. And it doesn't have to be such a big thing. It could be just a very tiny thing. So one of the character strengths is kindness. A way to use kindness would be, there's lots of different ways. Like you've probably heard of things like random acts of kindness, right? Just simply donating money to a charity probably makes you feel good. And not that it doesn't make other people feel good, but people who are rate in that kindness feel even better, feel even better than that. It might be, making a cake or making a meal for someone that you know is not well or sick, or even just your neighbour. Just thinking, hey, I'm going to go over and say hello to my neighbour. And, I know that they just moved in, or they, maybe even just write them a note anonymously. Or not anonymously, but, you don't have to knock on their door and say hello to them. You could just write them a note and leave the biscuits at their door or something like that, and say, I'm sorry I never got to know you, but I just want to say hello and do something kind for you. I'm next door. Hello. It could be reaching out to someone that you haven't reached out to for a while, and just call them and say, hey, how you going? I'm just reaching out to you, and that can be a kind gesture in itself. So that falls under the humanity section, right? So some people they may have one or two of those things in there. Love is also part of that. So, it might be very hard if love is one of your strengths, let's say, and your partner's just cheated on you and left you, and you're feeling very vulnerable and down. It's not like you can just get love from another place. But there are other places that might not be, that intimate relationship, that one-on-one partner relationship where you can find love. You might have, some kids that you could, spend time with that are your kids, or, you might be an aunt or an uncle or something like that, and you might, spend some time, to experience, to show love to other people, or, to care for someone that, needs caring for. Again, this can kind of intertwine with these things. Now, if that's not one of your strengths, you'd be thinking, Murray, that doesn't make sense to me. That's nothing, that wouldn't help me. It's just another thing to do. Another aspect of this, so there's 6 different overall aspects, and within those ones, there's, between 3 and 7 different things in those things. So another one that's very common would be the transcendence area. So in transcendence, you have appreciation of beauty as one of those things. And I often use that as an example to explain this concept to my patients, because it's an easy one to think of. So if appreciation of beauty is one of your strengths, it means you enjoy beautiful things, right? Now, it doesn't mean you have to go down to the supermarket or the retail store and buy a lot of beautiful things, although that may make you feel very happy. But you like to be surrounded by beauty, right? You're probably a person who enjoys the beauty of your environment. Be that in like aesthetic beauty of your house. You might take great pride in your house, or interior decorating and designing. It might be that you enjoy your garden. You have a really beautiful, you take, great care in those kinds of things. You might have a beautiful car, or you might have clothing, you might have, have a really good eye for beauty and detail in those kinds of things, or, in particular things, you see the beauty in that. Now, a cheap and simple way to kind of appreciate beauty would be just to go for a walk. And if you're in a beautiful environment already, that's even better. But if you're not, you could go for a walk just down the street and appreciate some beauty. Find some things that are beautiful. Like, see the beauty in the natural world and think, hey, that's a beautiful little garden. Hey, look at that flower. Like, sometimes I notice, flowers growing up where they just, it seems like a bunch of rubble and there's a flower growing out of it. Like, even nature's trying to express some beauty just by itself. You could go to an art gallery. You could go to a museum. You could go, you could flip through some interior design magazines, or, apps on your phone that are about interior design. And those kinds of things would probably make you feel good, because you are wired by that. Like, that's part of your wiring. You're wired to see beauty. And when you don't have beauty around you, it probably makes you feel less happy than someone who isn't really bothered by that. Another area of transcendence is things like gratitude and hope. So gratitude could be just simply keeping a gratitude journal. I mean, I find that that's useful for any people anyway. And even for myself, I've done that from time to time, where you just get a little notebook, and every day you write something that I'm grateful for. Like, even if it's just something simple. And actually, I can feel quite a good benefit from going back through that journal and reading back on the things and thinking, hey, there was lots of things that I was grateful for, good things that happened, but you're so focused. Like, for someone like me, I'm very focused on the future and what's going on next, that I kind of forget to appreciate the past and appreciate the little battles that you've won and the things that have happened. You can make a note. Like, I used to have some notes that I do. This was kind of a Tony Robbins thing, like make some notes about daily questions you want to ask yourself about, what am I grateful for today, and things like that. Now, you can laminate those sheets and put them in the shower, or put them in the toilet, or something like that. And then it just reminds you see it there, and you think, okay, I'm going to ask myself these daily questions. I'm going to, be involved in my mental health daily, like that. Hope is another one. Hope for the future. And what might make you feel good is watching a movie about hope. Reading an inspirational story about someone overcoming something, or seeing the hope in the world, or, calling someone that is going to inspire you with hope. And you are probably a kind of person who would inspire other people about hope. Humour is another one in Transcendence. So, this is why a lot of people who are depressed are really good at comedy, because it's something that transcends through that darkness, right? Through that despair and through those difficult circumstances. So if humour was something, or transcendence overall was something for you, you maybe find, a hidden skill in being a comedian, doing some stand-up comedy, writing a book that's, a humorous book, or I don't know, there's lots of different ways you could kind of utilize that skill. So these are just some of the things, right? There's 24 different character strengths. So I think you get the gist, right? Now, if you're not sure about what those strengths are, you can either get Martin Seligman's book, this book called Strengths and Virtues, or you can read up about it through various websites. There's heaps and heaps of sites online where you can kind of read more about the different strengths and how to use them. So that's one way of utilizing them, right? So if you're already feeling flat, you're feeling depressed, you're feeling sad, even if you're just in a place of transition in life, you feel like, I don't want to do this anymore, but I don't know what I want to do next. And that's what I want to sort of talk about in the next bit of the video, because that is where the exciting bit really comes in.